here again, Chauvet DJ put this room together to educate you guys because we want to raise the standard of what you guys are currently doing. It's good back there.
Mikey's churning Alice.
He can only create lights. He can't actually use equipment.
No.
Yes. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to be walking around a little bit here. Mikey Mike's going to be walking around as well. Just answering questions. If you guys do have a laptop, again, feel free to get those out. You can get the program installed, and we'll help you with the program and everything. But the Chauvet DJ Western Regional Manager, is that right? Out of California, running our little workshop here today, Mr. Todd Runkle.
So this is going to be a little bit more casual because they gave me the mic and it's never scripted when I do this. So I handle sales for Chauvet, been with them for 1 year, and my interest in Chauvet Show Express actually started 3 years before I started with the company. I was using it for a very long time before that, and it wasn't until I actually came on board that we got to get to the level we are now where it got me programming booths and stuff. 2 years ago there was a video shot, I think in this exact same room, of Alan here doing a 45-minute long training and taking us through very, very detailed instructions on how you set it up. And I was one of the annoying people in the background asking questions. So I still heard my voice on there now. But if you don't know the bodies in front of you, so yes, I'm Todd, West Coast for Chauvet DJ. This is Alan. Every product that you see and love from the company goes across his desk before it gets out to your hands. And of course, everybody knows Mikey Mike, right? Also, one of the reasons why I eventually saw videos and said, wow, that lighting thing looks really cool. Why would I ever use a piece of hardware again? So in a smaller room like this, the way that we're going to approach this is we'll all kind of chime in. We have different ways that we use the software. So we kind of wanted to give you, rather than just telling you this is how you do it, we wanted to open up your eyes to the possibilities. There's great videos that you can recap again. We got Disc Jockey News here that are going to stream this and record it for you, as well as the Chauvet DJ Academy, where there's lots of videos. So if you miss something, you can recap, you can TiVo, you can rewind and go through it. We'll go through it kind of top level, and then we'll dig in a little bit deeper for our more advanced users that have questions. I'm blinded by light, I don't know about you. So let's move over, this is better. We kind of want to take a poll so that the three of us know who we're talking to in the room. How many of you currently have Show Express? Okay, so maybe a third of the room here. Is anybody else using a different DMX software? Okay. You're the unicorn, only one in the room. Okay, and for the rest of you, are you using a hardware DMX controller at this time? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, so this lets us know a little bit, for example, that, I mean, there are people in the room, based on the hands that were up, that are either really tired or don't even know what the hell DMX is. And there's great videos, again, to teach you that on Chauvet DJ Academy and how everything works. We're going to start just one level beyond that with how we actually do DMX and how we set this all up. So we have, we're going to keep it really simple. I think the only fixtures we hooked up were the washes on these lights, on these tables right here. But this will be great because we can actually show you color mixing, we can show you scenes, we can show you movement, and then we can start talking about application a little bit. So with that being said, this is the main interface with Show Express right here. We call it the control board. And I've always told everybody, if you want to learn how to use Show Express, it's real simple. You pretty much follow the icons on the bottom left to right. So Alan's going to open up the first icon right here on the left. And I'll go through again top level, unless you guys tell me that we need to bring it down. You can slow me down at any time. The first thing that you're going to do is import fixtures into your own personal arsenal. There are thousands of fixtures. It is not just Chauvet. DMX is not just a Chauvet protocol. DMX is a universal language that everybody speaks. So as I'm talking here, you can see Alan just going through gazillions and gazillions of fixtures from different brands. And he's going to go ahead and he can pick out exactly what we have here in the room in front of us. So he's got brand new Chauvet and tip wash zooms 350s. And while he's doing that, you'll see on this tab on the left what he's done. I add everything here, because this is not going to affect your light show. I would add every single light that you own, any light that you rent or borrow from a friend. This doesn't affect you one bit. Also, many lights have different personalities. I personally put both personalities or multiple personalities in here. This is what I like to refer to as my garage. This is absolutely everything I could possibly ever want to do, so I don't have to look it up again or pull it up again. in this screen, you get a lot of detail for what this fixture is all about. So as we move over left to right, you've got all the details here. This is what it's going to look like when we select it. You'll see that in a little bit. Your beam angles, your lumen output, all of these things. We know what the fixture is. It was already in there. It's probably in there if it's from the competition as well. If it's not, you can build it yourself, or you can call our customer service department. They'll do it for you. When you move over here, this is how many channels of DMX this light has in the mode that he's operating in right now. And you can see all the labels right there for what each channel does. Again, if you didn't have those labels, you could literally just have 14 channels and wing it, or not read a manual like many DJs don't. But right here, this is your manual, and you'll never have to reference back to the guide again. And as Alan selects any individual channel, these are all the values of that channel. So you're not going to remember, for example, that as you go up through the control functions, I reverse pan by going on 128, whatever it is. The different steps in between can be very consuming. But having this all right here makes your life extremely easy, and you'll see as we program lights later that this once again, keeps you from having to look at the manual. All right, now let's DMX address our fixtures. The next tab over that he clicked right up there, he's going to add the fixtures right here. He's already got it done. Are you going to delete them out? Okay, perfect. So he's going to show you exactly how he did this from the beginning. So DMX addressing the fixtures, show Express is smart, and knows that it's a 14-channel fixture. He literally is just going to double-click on the fixture. It's going to pop up a window. If this is an old-school fixture, it's going to show him dip switches right here, so he knows what dip switches to put it in, just in case, if he doesn't have a digital display. He's going to tell it what he wants to call the fixture right here, and he's going to save it. He can also, within the screen, when he selects the fixture, you'll notice he can reverse pan and reverse tilt, set those things up. Okay, so there we go. And then now we can do this again and again. As he double clicks, Show Express would automatically know the next available channel in a sine form. But what he can also do, that's going to save him a lot of time because we got 8 moving heads right here, is if he just right clicks on it, right click is always your friend, he has the ability to duplicate it. And then when he duplicates it, he can just say, well, how many more do you have? So we got a total of 8 moving heads, so he's got 7 more, click OK, boom, there they all are, just like that. Everything's already assigned to Dmx Value. This is what everything's going to be. And then he's got a couple helpers around the room like myself, and he says, hey, that's number 1, that's number 15, that's this. It's programmed in. Everything's up and ready to rock. I'm going to take a breath and ask if you have questions. There they are. Go ahead.
So now that you have 8 set up, can they be 8 individual or act the same?
The way that it's set up right now, they are set up to have the ability to do 8 individual. In DMX, you have to remember that when I say the next available channel, each light, because it's a 14-channel light, those channels always go in order. You can't just go, I'm going to go 1 through 13, and the fader's over here, and I'm going to throw that like on 200 or something. It stays in that order. Now, what we could very easily do, if we set them all to the same address on the fixture, they would be doing the exact same thing. So even though Alan has the ability to control them 8 independently right now, he could go over on the fixture, and I love this new full color menu on our moving heads, because you can see the DMX address from all the way across the room. If he literally went down the row and made all 4 of them the exact same setting, they would do the same thing at the same time. But he's got the ability to do it this way. That being said as well, we could expand our stage. We just did it with 8 moving heads, but now we're going to go down to the stage for tone loc, and maybe we want to have 16 or some other multiple of 8. He could do 2 of them on that address, 2 on the next, 2 on the next, 2 on the next, and so forth. The program doesn't do it. It has to be addressed at the fixture. Okay. There is something out there which is very high level that you won't deal with in a DJ level fixtures or anything that you or I would probably come across called remote DMX addressing. That's a whole nother class. And that's a whole nother trade show, by the way. Okay, so this is DMX address. Did that answer your question, or do you have a separate one? That's a DMX question. The limit is going to be the number of channels in your universe, and there are 512 channels in a universe. With Show Express, however, you can run 6 universes. So you have over 3,000 channels of control. Correct. It's going to stop you at the end when you get to 512. It is going to stop you.
Yeah, so you asked about will the program tell that fixture to turn to that number? Basically, before you guys came in, they went through and figured out how many channels it was going to be, and then he would look on his computer and say, okay, the first one is 001. So then he had someone over on that fixture putting it to 001. Okay, the next one's 15. Yeah, exactly. So he puts them, they're all in a line. Yep, they're all in a line. So this last one over here is 99. So basically it's just, yeah, you see what's in the program, you see that number, and then you just go to that fixture and you assign that fixture with that.
They could be, and now let me tell you the way that this works in application. So right now, we have a big booth downstairs, where we have 8 lights, and there's a couple guys sitting around drinking a Diet Coke, so why not do it fast like this? But here's how it works in the real world. I'm sitting in my garage, and I do what Alan's doing right now, my lights are on, and they're all right in front of me, and I can address them. With Chauvet fixtures, anything you do at DMX is memorized on the fixture, even if you lose power. Because otherwise, what would you do at the end of the night when the nightclub shut down? So when we set all these fixtures, if we lost power right now, we boot them back all up, they will remember what their DMX address is, they will remember what their DMX personality is. To make our lives easier before we install, you'll actually see that on most fixtures, they'll have a little piece of P-Touch, and it's gonna say like, number 1, 1, number 2, 15. That way, if when I'm carrying the fixture, I happen to hit a button or something like that, and accidentally take it out of the DMX address, and it's like, wow, that one's doing something weird up there. I can literally, without going into the program, I can look right at the fixture and go, oh, it's at the wrong address, I know what it's supposed to be. Because you tend to keep your fixtures on these DMX addresses once you kind of do this, so that your rigs are just fast and easy. And there was a question back there.
Yeah, can you reverse on the fly, the pan and tilt?
Okay. So the question's about reverse pan and tilt on the fly. I'm going to show you the next thing, which is how you create shows, and we'll talk about that. What we're doing right here, this reverse pan and tilt, this is a permanent. Okay, so this is in your setup. How you set it up is how it's going to stay. We do have a significant number of fixtures, though, which is what Alan was showing on that control menu, on the control channel. Can you go back to that real quick now? So right here, you'll see that on channel 13, these control settings, this is exactly what's on the menu of the light. So on the light itself, you can also set reverse pan, reverse tilt, narrow pan, narrow tilt. If you want the fan to run in auto mode or high all the time because you're in a hot environment, all that kind of stuff. He's given you the options to do that right here. And when I say he, literally, this comes across his desk. This is the guy that gave me this great program, which I love, because now, yes, I can change it in the middle of a show. So instead of them going all one direction at the same time, I can change it to reverse pan or reverse tilt. Really, really cool options. This, though, will totally screw up the guy that doesn't read the manual. Because if you're just moving faders around and going, oh, this fader, oh yeah, it dims. This fader, oh yeah, it changes the go-go's. You get to channel 13 and you're wondering what that does, all of a sudden you change the setting in your light that is going to continue to stay set in your light until you go cancel. If you don't read a manual, how are you going to know how to cancel it out? You just totally ruined your show. So DMX tables, which are in the manual, quick snapshot. Once they're saved in here, you're never going to look at them again because the software has everything for you. So what Jeremy just brought up is talking about, again, personalities, which we speak to when we teach you about DMX. Fixtures have the ability to do different personalities. The moving heads typically have an advanced and a basic mode, but I'll start with something even more basic than that. Let's go to a RGB light, an uplight. RGB would be 3 channels, one for R, one for G, one for B. However, that channel may also have the ability to have a master dimmer, because maybe you came up with this great color and it's 50% blue and it's 20% red, and now you want to dim it down. And if you were just to move both those channels down together, you're going to run out of red before you run out of blue, and it changes your color. So you get more detailed control by having more channels. So maybe it has a 4-channel mode. Maybe that 4th channel is a master fader. Maybe that 4th channel is a strobe. Maybe it has a 7-channel mode, and it calls up the built-in programs where it dances around, or you can put it in sound active mode. That is all set on the fixture, but we have the profiles however you use it, so which profile you're going to open. So those are called personalities. Your lights, many lights have multiple personality disorder, right? So you're going to be able to choose the way that you operate your light for the level of detail control that you want. We have a color strip light in the booth right now that you can use as an RGB light and just change the whole color the entire time. However, the color band picks mover, when it's in its most extensive program, is 41 channels. Because you can control every single diode, all the built-in programs, all the strobes, and the tilt. 41 channels. So we just have 4 of them in the booth. That's like more than a quarter of a universe right there gone. If we did it that way. I was lazy, we didn't do that. So, and that's another thing that you'll find. The channels, if we accidentally set the light in the wrong mode, the light was in an advanced mode versus a basic, and it didn't match up with this, you would lose some of the controls or functionality. You might not have the master dim or anything like that.
Quick question: if you had this all set up and you're playing on your light computer, and it died, all of a sudden you wanted to pull that program off, or you wanted to keep it back up on it ever since it was pulled off, start playing on it. What's the fastest way to back up everything set up on the computer?
I believe we did it in about 20 seconds before you guys walked in here, because Alan's computer didn't have a VGA out to plug into this to what we got going on here. So we borrowed Jeremy's computer. Jeremy's computer's got Show Express on it, but Jeremy's computer doesn't have these lights built into Show Express because it's brand new. Take a thumb drive, stick it in there, copy paste. These are small text files you can email around. You'll find in the forums online, guys share them and make them for each other all the time. We put it in there, ready to rock. The entire show can be saved just like that and just opened up in a new computer.
If you're running Windows 7, go to your Start menu, click on your name, and right here you'll see the lighting controller, light shows. Here's all the light shows that are currently on Jeremy's computer. Today is the seminar. If you copy this folder and paste it on your thumb drive, you paste it into the same location on your next computer, it's as if you never left. So if you have, it's hugely beneficial if you have multiple rigs as well. If you're a multi-op going out different places, you can have different setups for each. If something isn't right, you can tweak that, and it only saves it in that one folder. If you're doing nightclubs, doing programming in the clubs, you can do the same thing, Club A, Club B, Club C, and you can take that with you. It's as if you never left.
And actually that brings up another good point that we didn't say. So on that main control board, all of those light shows exist. So you can think of it this way. If you go to a country club for this annual Christmas party and you do this light show, you can save it, and then every time you come back, open it up and do that same light show. Or the next venue. Or this is my prom setup that I do with 8 moving heads as opposed to my wedding setup that I do with 2. And each one of those becomes a different light show that you have that you can easily open up the next time you're there. Or something similar. Well, this isn't the same country club, but I'm doing the same kind of setup somewhere else, so I can just open it there, build from that. Or like you would do in a Word document or anything, save as. I'm going to start with that light show, save it as a new name, and add on what's different this time. So you have tons of different light shows. It takes no space, and it's not labor intensive at all. You can totally run Show Express in the background while you're DJing.
And if you run into a bug, or if you're having problems trying to figure something out and you need technical support, our office is open 9 to 5, and all you would have to do is take this folder from this location and email it to us. We can then take that folder, duplicate that on our computer, go into the files and see what the problem is, save it, and then email it right back. Because as you can see from the screen behind me, it's 44 kilobytes. It's a fraction of the size of anything. So we are able to take your files, duplicate it, fix it, send it back to you guys all via email.
Okay, but now let's move on to the fun stuff. So let's show you how you program lights. We'll come back to some questions. We'll definitely save time for questions at the end. You got a pad and paper in front of you. As a trainer, one thing I always say, if you thought of it right now, write it down. Because you'll forget by the time I get to the end. So write it down, and I promise you we'll get to them at the end. But let's get to the fun part. So now here we are to program lights. This truly is the fun part. This is when Alan puts on the headphones and ignores everybody else in the booth and rocks out to his music and personally stops hanging lights. That's one of the best things about being the lighting designer is everybody else is doing the labor at this point, and you just get to sit down and rock out. So you can see visually, here's what's going on the screen. A couple different things for you to notice before he starts working. Up here in this top right window, these are all the fixtures that he has DMX addressed. Not everything in the garage. So this is why I say again, whatever I add to the garage, it's not going to mess me up for this show. It's just there for me to work from and to add later. But if he's added a DMX address, it's here. Since he added 8 different fixtures, 8 different DMX addresses, he's got 8 pictures of moving heads at the top. Each one is going to have a name under it, which is what he created that you saw him create before. He can move those around, split them, drag them, and drop them, which we tend to do, so that he knows, like, well, those 4 are on this side of the room and those 4 are on that side of the room. Okay? With those, he can individually select them like he's doing right now, but just in Windows, you know how you hold down the control key to select multiple files and things? He can select multiple fixtures with that. He can also do Control A and select all the fixtures of that type with one quick little keystroke. And the benefit of that is that now when he's selecting those fixtures, as he makes a change, it changes every fixture selected, not just one, so he can save a ton of time by doing this. He can also, if we go down here to the bottom right, these are his groups. So he can group the fixtures. So he simply right-clicks in there and he can create a group, and it's going to create it for whatever he's got selected right now. So he might say, and then he can call it a quick letter or a Q, and he might just say M for movers. And then when he picks it, it will automatically select all those movers for him again. And then it'll have a list for you of all the groups he's created and what he titled that group, what he wanted to call it. This is a huge time saver because we all know that this wouldn't be his entire show. He's got uplights, he's got movers, he's got effects lights, he's got lasers. So L for laser, P for pars, M for movers. And then he's got all these movers. Well, he could select the movers in different ways. When he's got the movers all selected at the top, he right clicks on them, he also has the option of selecting an odd number or an even number. So instead of just going, or he could do it L and R, or whatever he wants to call it, left, right. I mean, it's your flexibility for how you like to grab things. But having all of these groups gives him a really fast way of being able to call up the movers for what he wants to be able to do. And what you're seeing on the bottom, that's your light board. Just like you guys that are hardware controllers, that's exactly what it is. However, my light board, if he goes and selects whatever fixture is selected, is what you see. So your light board always has 16 faders in front of you. The farthest less fader pretty much starts on 1 and works its way from there. His light board is going to have whatever he started working on. If he started working on only that light, it's going to start at 99, and it's going to be 14 faders only. But there are 512 faders. I just don't know that a 19-inch rack can hold all that. This is the benefit of software. And that's only one universe, and again, it can do 6. So he's got 3,000 plus faders if he were to slide that thing across. But he doesn't need to see all of those. So he's just going to mess with what he's got right now, and he can select his usable faders. So these are the different areas of the screen like we talked about again. And then Alan's going to go through and he's going to take us through some color mixing right now to show you how you would build your own color chase. Some of these lights have really cool colors built into them already. They might have like a 7-channel chase or something, but inevitably that 6th color, the bride hates. So that you can't use the built-in program, you want to create your own. As he's moving the different colors around here, you'll see again that it moved all the lights that he had selected simultaneously. Okay. And in addition to that, well, I'm going to let him go ahead. Actually, we'll go through the color steps, and I'll show you one other thing in the fader. So I'll let Alan talk you through this one with what he's going to do, and he's going to show you how you build color chases up here in the middle.
So really quick, most commonly people tend to do RGB color fades. So as you see right here, I have all of the fixtures selected. All I did was move up the red fader. I turned up the master dimmer, which is here, and also the shutter, because this particular fixture requires the shutter to be open, even though there's no physical shutter, it's a digital shutter. So if you have these fixtures, you slide the shutter up, you slide the dimmer up, and you slide the red up. We have red. That's the first look that we want. Our next step is going to be to add the green. So up here in the dead center, you can see the duration of 5 seconds, which is the default time. And I'm going to add a step. And what that's going to do is basically take step 1, copy it to step 2, and now I modify step 2, which we want to be green. I will lower the reds, and because I have all of the fixtures selected, all of the heads will be changing color, and bring up my greens. When I click on 1, it's red, 2 is green. See heads nodding, good? Question? You can, yes. I'm just going to do red, green, blue real quick, and then we'll touch on the color bit. So the next step is to add the blue. Add a step, bring down the green, bring up the blue. Okay, each one of these steps is 5 seconds. So you now, if you want it to be faster, you have the option to come in here and select the time and make it say 1 second or 2 seconds. Or to save you time, you can select the total amount of time and say, let's make this 3 seconds. And when I do that, it asks me if I want to recalculate the steps of all of the, recalculate the lengths of all of the steps. I'm going to click on yes. So with one data entry of the number 3, it changed all of the steps within that scene. So instead of it being a 15-second scene, it's now 3 seconds. And I'm going to play it back right here just to see what it looks like. So every second is going to change colors. I just created a scene in 20 seconds.
Now, if I can add on, one other thing that it does, Alan mentioned before that he could go to any individual step and change the time of that one step. So if he wanted it to stay on red longer than the rest, it started as 5, 5, and 5. If he wanted it to be 10, 5, and 5, then when he adjusts the total time of the scene, what it popped up that little window was, do you want me to calculate all steps? What it's basically saying is, do you want me to do math? Because what it's doing is it's keeping an equal proportion of the way he had it. So if step 1 was 50% longer than the other steps, it will still remain 50% longer. It's the same ratio. It does all that math for you. good for the boom boom part of the dance. But we got a soft environment right now, corporate environment, maybe having some drinks. A lot of people think of color fades. So what if we wanted to fade this? That'll be the next thing that I'll show you.
So the next step to create the lights to fade is on the bottom of the color of the channel. So you'll see here icons, you have red, green, and blue, and also white because this fixture has white. But look all the way at the bottom and you'll see a set of stairs. This is the transition. Right now it's going to snap from color to color. All you have to do is click it for each one of the colors you want to snap or fade. So what I did was change it. Basically now it looks like an escalator, and this will be the fade time to go from step to step. But if you'll notice, I'm on step 1 right now, and when I click on step 2, it's set still to snap. If I could have 100 different steps in this one scene, and I don't want to have to go to each one of the fixtures, to each one of the steps and change this setting. That would take me a ridiculous amount of time. So what I'll do is use the standard Windows shortcut keys and put check marks up here in the color boxes, and then right click. And here it gives me the option to set the value of selected channels on all steps. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong one. Sorry, one step up. Set fade state of selected channels on all steps. So what I'm telling the software to do now is to set that fade on all the way on the bottom to be on all of the steps in the scene. So now when I click on step 2 and step 3, you'll see here that it is set now to fade.
And let's play it and show everybody what that looks like. And you can actually see the faders. Alan's not doing anything, but you can literally see the faders as the scene is playing, and the faders are slowly moving for him to create those fades. Now the other setting that he accidentally was about to click on, which says Set Dmx Value, is also of great value. For example, Alan mentioned that you had to have the shutter open on this so that you would get the lights come out. So maybe you got your colors, but again, you got this 100 channel or 100 step scene, and you forgot somewhere to leave the master fader open. So by having it set all steps, or another perfect example, he's got it all the way open, which means it's full brightness. Maybe he wants to take it down a notch because he's in a smaller room. He could literally just move the fader down 50% or wherever he wants it, and then he could right click on it and say set value for all steps. And that would now mean that he has a new maximum value brightness for all steps that he has.
You have to drag the fader, or can you just enter a value and save it?
You can do both, whatever's going to be easier for you. So you can drag a fader, but if you click on the number, which it's physically showing you what that fader is set at, very helpful I might add, because it's 255 steps in something this tiny. So you can just manually type it in. So that's really fast, you can do it that way. Something else that's very useful, the lights that have, for example, these lights have some colors built into them already. So when we were in setup earlier, if we click on the color wheel for built-in colors, right here you see how it's white. I'm sorry, that's not the color wheel. Yeah,
I'm in basic mode.
okay, sorry. Alan's in the basic mode right now, but in the more advanced modes, remember where it had all those different values. Maybe that's a better one. You showed me a control function, it was channel 13. Sorry, in editor though. Go back to editor. And right above the fader on channel 13, if he clicks in the empty space right here for programming, okay, or not that one. So it will actually show now, I was blocking the projector when he clicked on it, but these were all those settings. So again, when we were in setup, and I told you, oh, again, if you read the manual or whatnot, you might not remember that you have to go to value 128 to reverse tilt. Well, you still don't know that you have to go to that value. But by clicking it, it showed him everything that was in his setup menu, so he never has to reference his manual and his DMX table again. It's right here. And these could be various things. They could be strobe or effects or built-in macros, so he can very quickly just select the one he wants, and the fader will jump to whatever value it is to do that thing. So that saves time as well. Just wanted to point that out real fast, because it's another way of selecting colors beyond color mixing. Let's exit out of that real fast. And the question was about the color wheel. At any step, he can literally just click in the color wheel, and it'll move the RGB faders to match what that color was be. He can actually hold it down, and as he's dragging around, you will see the faders move to match what color he's on. So it makes it really easy to go, oh, I need a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that to dial perfect color that I'm looking for. So this is basics on color mixing. But before we got to this point, because we're going to show you a couple different things as we get into movement as well. With XPress, you can actually run, there's about 3-4 different ways of controlling XPress internally when you're doing your shows. And every one of them has the ability to be seen in a 3D generator, which I might show you an image of. And it also has the ability of either going live right now or not. What Alan's doing for you is happening all right in front of you. But if he wanted to create something while this fade was going on without affecting the show that's going on right now, he has that ability. And it all starts right up here at the top where it has that little DMX flag. If that's turned on, that means he is currently controlling the DMX in the room. So when you saw him move the color wheel and stuff like that, if he turns it off, basically the scene could still be running. It's not right now because we don't have a play in another window, which will show. Your show could be running, and he could literally come up with something on the fly that he thought of without affecting what's happening right now. Create it, save it, and make it happen all during the show without interrupting the show. It's also the #1 thing when people call up customer service and say, nothing's happening when I control my lights. I'm moving my fader and nothing's happening. Did you click the DMX button at the top? Silence. Dial tone. Okay. So other questions on this? This is just basic color mixing again, trying to open doors. You can review it on djacademy.com. I want to show you guys some movement. Do you have any other questions before we get moving? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can punch in an exact number. Exactly, and you may have your own perfect color or option. You hired me and subcontracted me, and you said, hey, when I was out and I did the walkthrough with the bride, I dialed it in real quick, and it's 150 red, 28 blue, and 16 green. Okay, 128, 16. I can punch it in, and now boom, I've got the exact same setting as what you had when you did it. I have that color.
Let's save the scene.
Now let's save the scene. Good point. So what we're doing right now, this is how I used XPress for the first 2 years because I wasn't any smarter, and I was just using it to like turn on sound active modes and things of that nature. So by saving the scene, now he can work with other things. He can call it up at any time. So file save, just like you normally save, or save as. He's going to title it something right here. We'll see how creative he gets. Call it Fade 1, Fade 2, whatever you want to call it. And it puts everything in that same folder that he showed up before. You have all your light show and all your scenes that he's created. We'll show you when you call that back up later. He could also call it back up here in Editor if he finds out there was something he wanted to change. I know Jeremy was talking earlier about when you spotlight that first dance or when you hit that grand entrance. So when Jeremy does it every show, he's like, oh, I've got my color fades, I've already got my programs and my Rockstar and all that stuff. None of that's really going to change. What always changes is the positioning of the moving heads. So when he gets to his show, he goes into Editor here, does File Open, and opens First Dance. And then he moves the X and Y to change the new position, does a new save, and now he's ready to go. He didn't have to change anything else. Everything else was already saved. You will find that as you program, don't think of it as the entire show. Break it down into steps. Movement is separate from color. Color is separate from gobo. And then as you do your live mode, you have layers that you build upon. The nice thing about that is you can change things along the way. If your lights are doing a big circle, they're doing this, you'll see very soon what a circle actually equals. It's multiple points that they're going and hitting. They hit their point, they hit their next point, they hit their next point 5 seconds at a time like Alan was showing you. And then maybe you've got a nice white color that's going around and you suddenly want to change it to green. If you did this exact same setup and you just had a green version of it and a white version of it, and it was over here and it was hitting its third point, you started the new setup, it would snap back to 1 rather than completing the movement. And that's why we do movement separate from color. Okay, so movement is fun. This is the next thing that we're going to talk about, unless I got any more questions. Keep it moving. All right, so with the movement, once again, we're going to let Alan take it over. He's going to show you how he does XY control. You can see the basics of him having fun right now. You can see that he changed that RGB color wheel at the top left with a single tab, and now he's doing movement. And just like he set colors before, he's going to set positions for you now so you can see what he's doing, and then he's going to blow your mind.
All right, so just keeping it really simple right now, we want the lights to focus on the ceiling only. No matter what comes out of the light, it will always be on the ceiling. So it is a very simple step to do. First, select your fixtures. Click one, Control A selects them all. Then you can come over here and either use your mouse as a joystick, or you can manually move the fader yourself, depending on however you want to program. So I'm going to focus them up here on the ceiling, just like that, and that's the scene that I want. That's the movement position. I'm going to save that as a scene, just the way we saved the RGB. So I'm going to label this M for movement, just so that I know what it is, and then we're going to do ceiling. The next thing I'm going to do is maybe put one on the floor. Save that again, except I'm not going to save, I'm going to save as, so that I don't overwrite what I just created. I'm going to do this again. M for movement and floor. Now let's say I wanted half on the ceiling and half on the floor. First, I'll keep them on the floor like this. Then I will press my groups, let's say the evens, which is the letter E. And now I will move just the tilt and put those on the ceiling. I'm going to save that as movement, say split. Okay, you follow so far? Very simple, nothing too complicated. But now I'm going to add one step to it. Now I want the next movement scene to have half the lights up and half the lights down, and I want them to actually move in the scene. So this is a great starting point here. So what I'm going to do now is add a step. This is basically what it's going to look like for step 1. I'm going to add a step to step 2. Right now I have the even fixture selected. I will move the tilt to come down. Then I will invert my selection to the odds. Or since I created a group, I just have to hit O for odds and move their tilt only and go up. Now as you can see the timing, again, I want this to happen faster, so I will change the time here to say 2 seconds, which is 1 second for each step. Let's play it back, see what it looks like. Alright, now these are set to snap. If you remember from the RGB, we had the option at the bottom to snap or to fade. So I'm going to save this as it is with it snapping. Remember to save as and not save. So say movement, split, snap. Okay, and now I'm going to change it. Select all, set them to fade, set them to fade, save as, movement, split, and fade. Let's play it back. Big difference, right? Totally changes the look of your show. Now, so all of those scenes we have just saved and stored in the computer. And should we go generator? I don't want to confuse them. Live first? You
Yeah,
got it.
we're going to do one step ahead because one of the things, again, since I'm telling you about how you do, since we're telling you about how we control brightness and color separate from movement, we're going to jump into the live mode to show you how Alan would actually do this in real time and control multiple things. So he opened that next icon, which is live. He's going to go in here and he's going to add a button, which creates he's going to add a light scene right here, which is a button he's going to depress. Because you're not using all those faders in your show. You just saw how many faders he had to do multiple things. He's not going to move around 4 faders that fast, get to the exact same point every time. So you're going to come in here, you're just going to add a bunch. Make it really easy. He can select multiple things at the same time. He's got his movement right here. He can literally move the buttons around and create the look that he wants to organize his buttons as. And then by clicking a button, he can very quickly create the movement. Now we also saved our light scene. So now Alan's going to go and he's going to open up a new page. Rewind this on TiVo later. Now he's got 2 columns right here. This is the page you just saw. He's got a second column over here. He's separating. This is a preference. Everybody's got different preference the way they like to do it. Alan wants to keep all his movements over here in one page. He's going to put his colors over here in another page. Now if he selects the colors over here, we're going to get exactly what we had before and the lights come on. Before he does anything else, do me a favor, go back to editor. No, leave the lights on, sorry. The way that Alan's normally going to do this when he's looking for his positions is in live mode, he'd have the button depressed because he already saved that. And then he's going to come back over here to editor where he's creating the movement. That way he can actually see where the light is. And he's not creating light here, just movement. But he's got 2 different controls open at the same time. He's got a Dmx value open in live, he's got Dmx values open in editor, and that's that little button we talked about being selected. Okay, so now that he's got these two different movements, he's going to go ahead and show you the next step. This is how you control it, but he's going to show you how he can get some really crazy movements going on. He can play back the movements he gave you already in the live modes. You can now actually see the snap or the fade. But as you can see again, he did odd and even, and then he also created buttons which do all of them together at the same time. And now they all go together. But the next thing that he's going to show you is, since we did address all these lights individually, how he can create really cool scenes with each individual light without programming them one by one by one. This is the biggest time saver in this program.
So my first step is to select all of the fixtures. And I'm just going to warn you, this is a more advanced step. And then up here, I'm going to click on the generator. And you guys all have seen those X Factor shows, American Idol shows, where they have all of the lights beaming around the room, and it just appears as if they're all, randomized. They're not all doing the same thing at the same time. This is how they create those very complicated shows. And within generator, I have all of my fixtures selected, and I will turn on the DMX and click on the play button, and then select my pan and tilt. And as you can see now, the heads are following the circle that's on the screen. And this is pretty much where the fun starts, or your headaches start, depending on how you look at it. So, right now they're all doing a circle. Let me turn on some lights so we can see it.
And as it's going around the circle, if you see the dot moving around, you'll actually see 4 points. So when I talked about it, what's really happening here, if you were to look at this in a fader mode, is that there are 4 steps to this scene, and in between each step is a fade, so it's hitting each point at the end of the fade rather than snapping to. Alan can change it to points with the 3 dots right here, and now it becomes a snap 2. And it's the same 4 points, but instead of it moving nice and smoothly, it just hits it, waits 5 seconds, goes to the next scene, hits it, waits 5 seconds. But we like the smooth move, so he's going to go back to the curves, and then he's going to show you how you can really get crazy with it.
And so right now, all of the moving heads are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, but you want to basically create a delay between fixture 1 to fixture 2 to fixture 3 all the way up to 8. So you do that very, very easily within this, and to do that is the shift slider on the bottom. Can you all see that? And you can slide the bar negative or positive, it's your choice. So let's just slide it negative, and I'll just tap it real quick just so that you can see. And what's happening, as you can see, the 1% difference between them is those dots that are going around the circle are now becoming more spaced out, and those are the positions in real time of the head. So there's a very slight delay between the heads right now, but we're just going to keep that shift going.
You see now how the movement is more of a wave. One light, then the next, then the next, then the next. And the farther he shifts it, the crazier this becomes. And it gets to a point, at one point, where it just looks like crazy time. What you don't actually realize is the lights are all doing the exact same thing. They're just doing it so far apart that you're not able to keep up with the fact that they're doing the exact same movement. And it looks like a totally crazy random effect, but he literally just did it with one slide. They're all doing the same circle.
And not to confuse you even more, but if you look where the mouse is now, you can see load curve. There's a whole bunch of preset curves built into XPress that you can load. Right now it's a circle, but if you want a crown or a crazy 8 or a triangle or whatever, there's a ton of them built in. And if you create one that you really like, you can actually save it yourself just with this icon here, Save Curve, and you can recall it at a later date. So here's one that I created, just the wave, and it's the heads basically doing the wave like you would in a stadium. If it's too slow or too fast, you can come up here and change the time, so let's speed it up a little bit.
And again, Alan said he created this. It's important for you to understand. He can very easily just right-click in that area that we see the points, and he can add a point. So he can add a new step, add a new point, and he can take those steps that are already there, and he can literally just drag them around. So even that circle he had before, if that was too wide for you, it's shining back in the DJ's eyes, he can narrow that down simply by moving one of the steps so that it doesn't come back on the other side of the room and narrow all that out. It's literally as easy as holding down and moving the steps. Or it only stays on the dance floor.
So this can be, again, as basic or as complex as you make it, but you're not limited here to the pan and tilt, and that's the next step in this generation process. But before I touch on that, I actually want to save this so that you can see what's involved in saving this. So we'll create that randomized look again. maybe a little faster.
Keep in mind he has DMX selected here, so once again, this is another level of DMX control. He didn't have DMX selected, the lights wouldn't be doing anything. But he wants to see what it actually looks like. So again, he could be creating this while the show's going on without DMX selected, and live mode would still be having him in that Snap 2 red color that you watched before when he got started.
So you remember how we created steps before with the red, green, and blue, where we had to go red, add step, green, add step, and that took not too long, but it took some time. Can you imagine creating something like this for 8 heads?
Let's show him how many steps it is.
So all you have to do up here is click the generate button, and when you do that, it automatically imports that entire scene into editor for you. And now, turn that off. And now you can see it would have been a total of 12 steps. Some of the steps are 0.7 seconds, some of the steps are 0.1. You would have to know the timing of each one to create that complex look. So Generator does that for you. And once it's in here, all you would have to do is click save and give it a name. So we'll just call this white random. And if you want to see what it looks like, just click the play button.
It's the exact same thing that you saw before, now just made up into steps. So this is doing this on movement, and again, we're just trying to open your eyes. And I'm going to shift it right now to something that Mikey got my attention on earlier. So now we created this wave, if you will. You guys saw it all working together, and then all of a sudden it looks randomized because of the shift mode. And that was great in movement, really got my attention. Every time we do that, the whole class goes, you should hear yourselves. So you just realized how easy it is. Well, I used to do these chases, and I'd say, well, I've got 10 par cans on the wall. Step 1, turn on number 1. Step 2, turn on number 2. Turn on number 3. So instead of having them all change together, I could create things like step, 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 step. 45 minutes on this program, and then I watched this guy's video. So I'm going to let him tell you how this one works.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate that. I do a lot of uplighting, and I like to create random effects in my uplighting. So I might have 30 or 40 fixtures going around the room. Well, everyone can do a blue room, right? Well, I can create, using the generator in about a minute or less, and Alan will probably do it in 1.2 seconds, I can take, because my lights are individually addressed, I have 40 fixtures around the room, they each have its own personality, their own DMX address. I can make them do all the same thing at one time by grouping, or I can use the generator and simply group all my 40 fixtures, open them up in the generator, and I can actually fade from purples to greens and have them sweep around the room, or make it look like a spinning motion, right? They can spin around the room. The whole room now becomes alive, and not just the lights turning on and off a different color. I can have that red, just one red fixture all the way around the room, or I can have them all red and then one fixture at a time turn off. So it's all red and one's off, then it turns back on, one's off, and it goes like that around the room. So you can still keep your red color, but you get dynamic movement. So you can do that with different colors, and you can do that simply with the generator.
So what I've done here in Generator is first selected the fixtures, turned on the dimmer and the shutter, and selected my red channel because we want to create a red effect of some kind. This basically becomes my dimmer, just from 0 to 255, very simple. And as I mentioned earlier, there are curves that you can load, again for pan and tilt or for color. So let's load a sine wave. Don't worry, we're not doing any math. But here's what a sine wave looks like. If you click on the play button, it will play the red, which is basically just fading up and fading down and then repeating itself every 5 seconds because that's the time that's currently set to. It's set on curve, so it will actually fade just like it was the pan and tilt. I can also do it on points. This is what it will look like, a sine wave, if it wasn't fading between the two. But we talked about the shift, so let's add a shift. Let's see what happens. I see smiles and laughter in the front row. When I see those smiles and laughter, I see a bunch of time being saved by creating these complex looks. Now let's change it to a point.
So now you can do the Knight Rider look across if you had a archway or a beam going across, or trussing going straight across your DJ booth. Instead of having to go light 1 on, light 1 off, light 2 on, light 2 off, and all those steps, simply in 1.2 seconds, as Alan shows you, you can quickly get that Knight Rider look across your whole DJ booth and create some dynamic effects.
And you have full reign over here to play with these red points. So if you want the lights to be off more than on, just simply arrange those dots in that fashion. And you can see what the lights are doing behind me. If you just slide this over, the lights will be on more than they will be off. and you just basically created the invert of that scene. So
And
depending on what you're looking for, this is how you manipulate that.
And if he adds another couple of points in the middle of that bar, he can actually drop it, have them come on, off, and then on and off, and then he can fan those out as well. So like a step motion here.
45
If-
minutes. I
Yeah.
did it.
If-
To do this with 10 lights, it took me 45 minutes.
And you can add multiple colors to this, so instead of just red spinning, at one point it can actually be red, fade down to blue, and then fade back up to red. Or if you just go part of the way down, it could be red 100%, and then, or 255, and then red 50%, and you can have different dynamics for your lighting as well.
And I'm going to add one more thing to this too to show you another way that you can do it. Alan's showing it to you right now in color, but rather than just thinking of it as red and green, didn't we create a really cool color fade earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, so if he did it instead of in color, and he did it with the master fader, and had the master fader snap on or off, and the color was taking place, this is layering. So he could take that crazy color that we already had, he could create in Generator the wave, but the wave is simply opening or closing so that we can see our color. And now it's your color or your color fade. And now he can also layer in his crazy movement and the color fade. So we'll let him finish that step. He's going to show you how he saves it real quick. Then he's going to add another button in live and now show you how simply by selecting different buttons, he can get different looks, because now he's got different color, he's got different positions on lights, he's got different movement on lights, he's got crazy time on lights, and he's got this cool Knight Rider chase pattern. And he can now run a show and have all these different things instead of one thing by adding those and layering them together.
So we will add in that dimmer pop that Todd just mentioned. So here's what it looks like in conjunction with what's currently going on in the live window. Because right now in live I'm running that RGB fade scene just so that we can see. Because just by fading the master dimmer with no color selected, you're not going to see anything. So that's why I have this scene running in the background, just so that I can see what the effect will actually look like. Once you come in here, you can see that no color is selected, just the master dimmer. And then what? I'm going to click the generate button. It will put that into the editor window, and I save the editor window. And I save this as a shutter effect, and I'll just do random pop and click save. I'll go back now into the live window, and for me, this is just the way I like doing it. I'll add another page, and I'll call this one shutter. And I'll add his light scene. Random pop, so that any scene of color that's playing, and I just click it, it will automatically play back that dimmer pop, no matter what color is playing, because you're using the master dimmer. So this is a way to create very complex looks, but very easily, just by layering these effects. And the beauty of XPress is that you can layer an unlimited number of scenes and play them back simultaneously. And another thing that I'm going to show you here, which I'm hopefully not jumping ahead of you, Todd, I'm going to add a page, and I'm going to call this one macros. So what I did here was, let's say I like the movement split snap with the RGB fade, and I like this as a scene. Now I could have 16 different scenes clicked right now, and they're all running. I could have a swarm running, I could have a slow fade on my walls running. I have 16 different scenes saved. And I like this look, and I want to recall this at a later date, but I can't click 16 scenes at the same time, nor will I remember later on, after I've had a few beers, which scenes are actually running. So XPress has something that's called a macro. And what a macro is a single button that will trigger multiple buttons. So first, I will set the look. Let's say I like this look. I created a new page because that's the way I like doing it. You can add a macro in anywhere you want. Right click and add macro button. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm just going to call it look 1. And you can see here under the macros, when I click look 1, it triggers those 2 scenes. And again, you can do this an unlimited number of times and have an unlimited number of macros playing back. So think about your possibilities for your programming. You can. Okay.
So I don't know if you added yet your wave, Alan. I don't know if you added that button. So why don't we add that button?
I didn't generate it.
going to add it just like this. This is how quick it all takes place. So he's jumping back into generator. He's going to create the movement. He's going to go for that circle or figure 8 that he liked. He's going to shift it, so he's got the shift that he wants. He saves it as a scene. Once it's saved as a scene in his file, then he's going to go back to the live mode so that he can create a button for it. And again, this is non-stop. When you're doing a show, it's like you have this live thing, and literally something else will just come to you in the middle of a show. Well, what if I could do this? Maybe not while you're DJing, but if you're just sitting here doing lights, you're going, I'm going to create this other thing right now. But if you've done all this in advance, this is all saved, it's permanently saved, it can be modified at any time in an unlimited number of shows, unlimited number of scenes. Things can be hidden in the background so you don't have to see them. Buttons that he doesn't want to see or get in his way right now. And then he creates these macro buttons because again, he doesn't have 16 fingers. He doesn't, even if he takes off his shoes, he can't push that many buttons at the same time and still mix or attempt to mix, depending on how good he's doing tonight. So he's going to create a different look now where he's got his wave and he's going to now create a new macro.
So I added my movement of wave. I added my color blue just now. We didn't even go over it. I just added it quickly while Todd was talking. And I like this as a look. I want to come back to it at a later date. Again, I'm going to right click on the macro button. I'm just going to call it look 2 blue wave. And when you click it, it will trigger those same scenes every time. If you are using a iPad, an Android device, a tablet, you can actually take a look of your tablet will display this exact screen of what you're seeing up here wirelessly. So if you're running around the room, you're actually able to trigger these scenes wirelessly if you have a router connected to your computer. We're not going to get into details of that, but it is very simple. For 20 bucks, go to the store, buy a router, connect your iPad to it, connect your computer to it, and now your live window
And phones too, not
is
just
now
pads.
mobile. It will also work with your iPhone or Android phone as well as tablets.
There's an app for that, Jeremy said. Okay, so I just want to show one other thing in this real quick, and then I think we'll open it up for questions, because I think we're kind of at the end. Alan, do me a favor, and because live mode, again, is how you really use the program. This is what you do. You're not moving faders all the time. You don't have time for that. You're going to use it in live mode. You're going to lay out your buttons the way you want. You can put pictures on top of buttons to make it more useful for you so you can remember it. You can change the colors of buttons. There's a lot that you can do there. This is how you really run the program most of the time. So actually, Alan, go to any button and right-click on the button he just did. I want you to see all the options you have for the button. So for example, you can set in a fade in and a fade out. So instead of it just snapping on that color right away when you push it, it'll slowly bring up the color, slowly make the color go away. And you can change it at any time simply by right-clicking. And whatever options he makes, that's a fade in right there. You see the little escalator going up, fade out, escalator going down. He also has a little lightning bolt, which is called a flash button. Awesome for fog, awesome for strobe. When he has a flash button, it only is active as long as he physically holds it down. When he removes his finger, the button is not active anymore. Okay? Now he's got this set as a fade in and fade out and a flash mode, so it's only, he has to hold it down long enough to fade in. If you wanted to use it as a blinder or something, he would probably take off the fade in. Okay, awesome for this kind of stuff. Got blinders down in the booth like this. Another thing, and again, we're not going to go into detail on this, but to open the possibility of showing you what you can do. Anybody here use MIDI? So my thing is MIDI control, because then I don't even have to move my mouse. All of these buttons can also be set as trigger points. So when he right clicks, he hit button trigger. There's a lot of different ways he can fire this off. He can actually fire it off with a keyboard. So he could actually have a keyboard button where he pushes a single button and it activates the macro button, which activates an unlimited number of other buttons. He pushed one thing. If he wants it external, he can hook it up to a MIDI controller, like a drum pad or something like that. And you've got MIDI down here at the bottom. And all you have to do is when you click that, there's a learn button. He clicks learn, and then on his exterior touchpad or drum pad or whatever he's got, he touches it, that's where I want it. The learn button lights back up and shows that it's got it, and he clicks save. And it's that easy, and now that button can control something in or an unlimited number of things in Show Express. There are